Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the MIT 100K Launch Semifinals. I'm Jayshree. I'm one of the managing directors this year, and along with Taylor and Celine, we are so excited to welcome you here tonight. We're also going to be live streaming this event, so we have tons of people listening from all around the world, so we're very excited for this point in the journey of the 100K. So the 100K started around 30 years ago when a group of students teamed up with Professor Ed Roberts to bring MIT's Mens et Manus motto to life through a startup competition. With just $10,000, they sparked a movement that's only grown thanks to our generous sponsors, evolving into the $100,000 prize that we know today. But this isn't just one night, it is a series of events throughout the year. So we begin with Pitch in December, then it continues into Accelerate in the March, and now we lead to today, which is our semifinals, and finally in 2 weeks it will culminate in the finals, where the winner will win our coveted $100,000 prize.
And of course, this is all made possible by our incredible sponsors. This event and the MIT 100K prize money are made possible by the generous support of our sponsors today. We'd like to thank Akamai, our newest sponsor, Goodwin Law, a global law firm deeply embedded into the entrepreneurship system. We also want to extend a heartfelt thank you to the Morgan Thaler Foundation, whose increased sponsorship continues the legacy of MIT, based off alum David Morgan Thaler by deepening their impact on our startup community. Beyond funding, these partners serve as vital mentors and guides for both our competing teams and our organizing committee.
And of course, this competition was made possible by our judges. So we had a preliminary round of around 60 judges from multiple industries who brought a variety of their experiences to select the 16 competitors that you will be hearing from today. Tonight, we are also thrilled to be joined by our esteemed panel of judges. So we have Maya Heyman. She is a co-founder and general partner of Converge VC, an early stage firm investing in B2B technology. With over 25 years as a VC and tech banker, she served on 30 boards and led investments with multiple IPOs and M&A exits. She previously launched Bank Boston Ventures in the Palo Alto office and is a trustee of Wellesley College. Next, we have Corey Munchback, a former CEO and current board member at Forrester. She spent a decade at BlueConic, creating a world-class customer experience and scaling the company from early stage to a 12x ARR exit. She's now writing The Extraordinary Ordinary CEO, and is active in Boston's tech and AI community. We're also excited to be joined by Seb Barriga. He's a founder and managing partner at Myomark Capital, investing in AI-driven startups from MIT and Harvard. He's backed over 30 companies and is deeply involved in the MIT startup ecosystem and mentoring across multiple leading accelerator programs. Next, we have Andy Kozma, who's joined us all the way from Germany just for today. He is a serial entrepreneur and the global CRO at Violytics, where he built the company's global go-to-market from the ground up. He previously helped scale Transoft International to a successful exit and has held leadership roles across fintech and SaaS. And he actively mentors founders globally and operates across multiple markets. And finally, we have Priyanka Navate, an associate at Wilson Sonsini, advising life sciences and tech companies on venture financing and corporate governance. She previously worked at Bayer and Microsoft and was a director at the Harvard Law Entrepreneurship Project, supporting multiple startups.
And we'd like to give a heartfelt thank you to our organizing team. We truly could not have done it today without them. Our members have invested countless numbers of hours to ensure that the 100K is a success, and none of this would be possible. We also want to recognize our wonderful audio and video production team at MIT in the back, who have been so helpful in enabling this hybrid event with both in-person and live stream options. So now let's get to the main event. In March, nearly 80 teams applied to compete in tonight's event, and our network of external judges reviewed each and every application in the preliminary round. This evening, the top 16 teams will compete for a chance to compete in the launch finals, our flagship competition where the grand prize is, you guessed it, 100K. And I would like to show you our competitors tonight. We will start off with 5-minute pitches from our 16 finalists to give you an overview of their exciting ventures that they have been working on. Each finalist will then have 3 minutes of questions from the judging team to dive deep in their ideas. After that, you will have a chance to engage with the competitors and eat dinner with them in the foyer, and we encourage audience members to ask any questions and learn more about what the team has to offer. Tonight, for all of our competitors, we wish you the best of luck, and to our audience, thanks for tuning in. Please sit back and enjoy the show. Now let's get to the pitches. So first up, we have our winner of Accelerate Uplift Microhome.
Last year, my city was struck by the devastating Palisades fire. Is it on? No. No? It's on. Cool. Last year, my city was struck by the devastating Palisades fire. SpaceX deployed me to help first responders get connected to Starlink. The experience shook me. In a matter of hours, entire families' belongings were decimated. It left them wondering where to go and how to get back to what life was like before. 3.3 million Americans are displaced every year in the US. That is 5 times the population of this great city. If they're lucky, they crowd out of state with their friends or family. If they're not so lucky, they could end up in a homeless shelter. Bottom line, America lacks private and affordable living after a disaster. 4 months later, FEMA arrives. Shitty homes in a dirt lot hundreds of miles away. Why does this take so long? 3 reasons. The products today require power and water utilities be online, on-site. They have extensive foundation preparation requirements, and their transportation logistics are extremely inefficient, often requiring a multi-car entourage to deliver just 1 unit. And as a result, less than 1% of survivors actually receive a physical home. The rest get a check and are told to go figure it out. This isn't just our opinion. DHS audited FEMA, and they only had 1 recommendation in their report: provide a housing alternative that allows survivors to be close to home and is cost effective. And that is what we are making. We're building a world where housing is on demand for anyone, anywhere, at any time.
And we're doing it with the Uplift. The Uplift Microhome is a highly engineered unit specifically designed to address the 3 critical bottlenecks of current disaster housing. The Microhome is completely off-grid capable, eliminating the requirements for power and water utility hookups. There's an onboard battery and water. It is charged with solar or a diesel backup. The Microhome's foundation allows it to be placed on land without preparation. It can level itself on its own the moment it's placed, dramatically simplifying construction requirements to 0 on arrival. The Microhome's transportation logistics are significantly more efficient. It can be picked up and moved around with the ubiquitous forklift, simplifying delivery, installation, and deactivation. You can fit 5 microhomes on an 18-wheeler, allowing 1 technician to move 5 units. The microhome has all the amenities necessary for temporary and transitional housing. And by purpose building our feature set specifically for this use case, we achieve a price similar to that of the cheapest travel trailer while delivering housing in just hours rather than days and months. The microhome's internal square footage is 60 square feet, which is smaller, but it's important to recognize we're solving for rapid and temporary housing. And this is no longer just an estimation. We actually built one, and we brought it to Harvard and MIT just this past week. This cost us $21,000 in materials, which is well within expectations for us to reach our target price. We showed this to disaster survivors, volunteer groups, and the Red Cross, and they said that this is a huge piece that's missing from the disaster scene and that they've never seen anything like it. Now that we have the technology, we can look and see clearly that spending is looking for a solution. Federally, $13 billion per year is spent specifically on temporary housing after a disaster.
and alternative living expenses through private insurers exceed $7 billion. This has tripled since 2005, and we just expect this to keep increasing.
In 2 weeks, we're going to be one of 100 exhibitors going to the largest disaster relief conference in the United States in Palm Beach, Florida. We'll have an exhibit hall floor space for our prototype. They admitted us without us even having sold a product yet. That's how much they want this. But disaster relief is just the beginning. There are so many people in the United States and globally that need better transitional and temporary housing. Seasonal workers, of course, our urban homelessness. Boston has 1% homeless, 6,000 people right here in Boston. And of course, the global housing crisis, which affects 100 million people in developed countries alone. This product can enable a solution for that. My name's Charlie. I spent 5 years at SpaceX. I did the mass manufacturing lines to enable Starlink around the world.
Sorry to cut you off, but we're going to have to move into judge questions.
Totally fine.
Can you guys just talk a little bit about the physical homes might solve the problems, but is it just government dysfunction and regulation, like why we have homeless problems, et cetera? Like, what's your approach on solving the regulatory blockades related to all of the places where this could be impactful?
That's a good question. I mean, when we studied this landscape and we were looking to solve homelessness in the very beginning, we were encountered by the same problem. This is actually why we're starting with disaster relief. When a state of emergency is declared, they lift a lot of the housing code regulations, which actually allows us to design a unit that can be deployed in any state. We saw in North Carolina, they completely relaxed housing under a certain square footage, which were within that envelope, which would allow us to build without even being signed off beforehand.
Great job, guys. Can you talk about the economic model a little bit more? Where are you selling them to the relief agencies? Are you thinking of doing a rental model? What are your early thoughts?
Yeah, so in the very beginning, we don't have the capital to do rental, but it is definitely the model for the future. In the beginning, we need to sell upfront. In fact, before we even build, to allow us to scale quickly with a negative cash conversion cycle. But in the future, it should be a rental model where we can increase the utilization of a single unit by allocating it where it's needed most.
What's the immediate next thing that you need to prove for this to become reality?
I think it's going to be why we're going to the conference. We want to find our first customers. This conference, all the disaster relief managers, the people that write the checks, go to this for new products. So we'll be one of the hundreds exhibiting there, and we hope to attract the state of Florida, essentially the Gulf states, local municipalities, to want to buy these units. We'll then get those letters of intent. If we made it at this price, they would buy it. We will go to the venture capital world and make a factory.
What about building the actual houses at scale?
Like how we will do it? That's, obviously we didn't talk about the team. That is what we do. I made the mass production lines for all the Starlink product going to customers. Trevor did scaled vehicle electronics across Tesla's product portfolio for 5 years. We have the scaling experience this problem demands.
But are you guys planning to do the manufacturing, or will you sell
Yes,
it out?
yes, we will be the manufacturer for this product. At some point, we kind of referenced it, when we have enough capital, we might be providing the housing as a service model. We can guarantee a better utilization percentage, et cetera. There'll be a lot of gains there, but not right away. At first, we'll be a manufacturer and designer for this product.
Anyone else on the team in addition to you two?
Yeah, we have obviously 2 advisors I couldn't talk to that are helping us navigate the disaster relief scene. And we also have a part-time employee who actually helped us build that first prototype, which was fantastic. It looks great.
Do you have time for one more? Just on the go-to-market side, are you looking for federal fund? Like, who's actually paying?
Yeah, it's federal and state, local emergency management agencies. We actually had a call yesterday with Copper River, a large federal contractor, who introduced us to the Navajo tribe that has $100 million per year they're looking to spend on off-grid housing. And they haven't been able to fulfill a single contract because this doesn't exist. And so there's an enormous demand for what we're building.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Up next, we have our runner-up from Accelerate, Neural Physics.
Mic test.
Hey everyone, we are Neural Physics, and we are building AIs that lets engineers design 1,000 times faster. This is our team. I'm Mo. I'm a MICCI PhD student here at MIT with my co-founder, Xian, who's a MICCI postdoc. We both bring industry experience, and we've been working on this project for more than 2 years. We have two amazing advisors, Professor Angela Dai from TU Munich. She leads the 3D AI lab, and Faiz Ahmed, who is a MICCI professor here at MIT. Think about design. This is how we design today. It's very slow and tedious. Designing a car can take something between 3 to 5 years. Why is that? Companies need to spend hundreds of millions of dollars every year on simulation. One single simulation can take more than 72 hours and thousands of dollars. What if I want to test one design? What about 100 designs? What about tens of thousands of ideas? We are fixing this with foundation physics model. We built the first foundation physics model for car aerodynamics. The data mode is a 40 terabytes of high-fidelity simulation data, validated against real-world designs. We trained a large-scale geometric deep learning model that obeys the laws of physics. And the outcome, 1,000 times faster than traditional solvers and more than 98% accuracy. This means we can reduce simulation time from 12 hours to less than 5 seconds. Time to market can go from 3 to 5 years to less than a year. And we could save hundreds of millions of costs in R&D. We were able to secure more than 25 paid customers and a total of $240K in revenues in less than a year. This includes companies such as NVIDIA, AWS, all the simulation software companies, Ansys, Altair, Siemens, and Cadence, automotive companies such as Toyota, Volkswagen, even startups such as Neural Concept and PhysicsX. Our key differentiator is a fully automated pipeline for large-scale and high-fidelity dataset generation. This means we can do car aerodynamics, aerospace design, car crash simulation, marine simulation, and we are currently working on extending our pipeline by including additive manufacturing, data center cooling, chip simulation, and finally, wind and turbo machinery. And this is what I mean by a fully automated pipeline for large-scale, high-fidelity simulations.
Testing new car designs used to take years and cost millions of dollars. But this new AI tool does it in seconds for a fraction of the cost. MIT engineers just created the largest database of car designs ever made public. They use generative AI to create and test 8,000 different vehicle designs. A powerful fluid dynamics simulator then tests how air moves around every curve and edge. The database is trained on detailed 3D models of 3 distinct body styles: fastback sedans, notchback coupes, and station wagons. Car companies can now use these designs to train their own AI systems, generating new vehicle concepts in seconds instead of months or years. Many people have range anxiety, the fear that their EV battery isn't sufficient for longer trips. But this database could accelerate the development of long-range batteries because of the ability to rapidly test the efficiency of different body shapes. Expect to see new cutting-edge designs in the coming years thanks to this trove of data.
We are Neural Physics, and we're building foundation physics models for design and manufacturing. Thank you very much.
Great job. Can you go back to, or you don't worry about the slides, but I just want to understand, are you, like, let's take Ansys as an example. Are you augmenting their models or supplementing?
We are completely disrupting this domain. We see ourselves in 5 years, the new Ansys. It's an AI company that understands physics, and we can do simulations and design in real time. This is how we stand compared to traditional software companies, and this is how we stand also compared to big tech companies such as NVIDIA. We have both the data mode, we can scale simulations to tens of thousands of simulations or even millions of simulations, and we also have the know-how how to build large-scale foundation models.
Since you already have 25 customers, you just showed your path to 150 million in ARR. Can you talk about pricing a little bit and how you do that?
Yeah, sure. So we have 2 different models. First is a dataset API. We have terabytes of simulation data already generated. So companies can access specific data points if they don't want to spend money running their own simulations. This is the first business model. The second business model is that we are providing foundation physics model as a service. So you can take our model and fine-tune it on your own customer private data. So you don't have to train models from scratch. You just fine-tune it on your own private data without us getting access to private company data, because most companies have security concerns.
Are you primarily planning on focus? It seems like a big focus is automotive, and a few other fields too. Are you planning on staying in that lane, or are you planning on expanding beyond that?
We started with automotive because this is like one of my, I'm really passionate about like cars. I think this was just a proof of concept, but I see it in like literally every product design cycle that needs simulations.
Okay. But are you planning on focusing on automotive, or you're going to expand?
We are currently doing a project related to aerospace design.
Okay.
Aircraft manufacturing.
Can you talk about your, how are you selling? Like your go-to-market, I mean, typically is a long sales cycle.
Right.
So tell us your experience so far and how you're planning to do that.
So what we did so far with all the customers I've showed is that we just released our paper online. It was a publication. We presented it at NERPS 2 years ago. And we were just like getting emails from all those companies, hey, you have solved a real big problem for us. Like a lot of people were thinking, okay, maybe it's just like foundation models for large language models or for text, for images. But no one thought about it for physics or manufacturing. We took a completely different approach, which is, okay, we need to first focus on the data set, build a really good pipeline for scaling data sets, and I think whatever comes next would be definitely easier because you build like a really good solid foundation.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Next up, we have IU Connect.
The new electronic health record system that will revolutionize Indian healthcare. Right now, how long did your last doctor's appointment take? 20 minutes, 30? An Indian doctor sees a patient for around 1 minute. An Indian doctor sees a patient for around just 1 minute. And this is made worse by the fact that 65% of hospitals have paper records. That means that your doctor doesn't remember your medical history. It's like Groundhog Day, every single time. Moreover, 4 hours are wasted each day for a doctor to just take paper records that are not going to be there anymore. And this wastes $40 billion a year in the Indian health record system. Now, our solution is simple. Take those 4 hours and give them back to the doctors by giving them a WhatsApp AI agent that will intake patient information and store it. Then adapt this for multilingual support that will match the Indian landscape. And finally, store this in a simple EHR that requires no starting information. How do we do this? First, voice-to-text transcription and WhatsApp AI agents will streamline intakes, generate appointments, and remove all the admin overhead. This will reduce admin hires by 2 admins per hospital on average and save doctors 4 hours a day. Indian cell phone penetration is over 80%. In most places, it's higher than in the US. So everyone who has a cell phone in India, almost everyone, has WhatsApp. And this will be seamless and easy for patients to access. Next, multilingual support. India is a country of many languages, over 30, multiple dialects, accents, etc. Our ambient AI can transcribe any language, and we will adapt to multiple languages as we develop. This will allow us to record everything seamlessly to an electronic health record system that will be maintained and traveled with the patient to any hospital that carries our system. Finally, this clean EHR requires no paper to digitalization headway. We can just digitalize everything on the go. Patient information is taken from the WhatsApp, from patient meetings, And ultimately, this is compliant with all health record standards and made for India for tier 2 and 3 hospitals, which we are targeting.
And the market is huge. Imagine 1.4 billion Indians paying. Just the EHR market alone is $600 million per year. And the time is now. ABDM mandates, which is the government's healthcare mandates, mirror those of the US, which took adoption rates in the US from 10% to 96% in just 5 years. Specific mandates around medical colleges requiring digitization, as well as insurance and hospital providers using digital records, is what we see as being the catalyst for this change. And of course, we have competitors, but they all are solving one piece of the puzzle. HealthPlix is selling billing, Practo sells teleconsults, Eka bolts on a scribe on an EHR. IUconnect solves the entire puzzle. We run the entire loop in English, right from WhatsApp intake to structured EHR outputs. We're building a product which is end-to-end deep, seated in the moat of our tier 2 and 3 hospitals. And the business model is quite simple. It's a software subscription model, $15,000 per hospital, scales up to 300 million ARR across 30,000 hospitals in India. Over the long term, we aim to be a licensed data platform, which will scale us to about $5 billion. And we're on fire. We have 10 hospitals under LOI, 750 beds in total, seeing over 400,000 patients. We've won over $30,000 in non-dilutive funding at MIT. And the $100K that we plan to use is mainly a bridge to get us to a 10 hospital paid pilot and a $1.5 million seed round, which will help us unlock 12 months of runway and 40 hospitals supported. The $100K will mainly be used for infrastructure, certifications, and fine-tuning our medical proprietary data set. We have the most cracked team of MIT builders. Jitiman's a postdoc with 200 citations, located in India full-time. I have consulted at DeepMind and also a former investor. Alexandra is a full-stack engineer and a published AI researcher, MIT undergrad, and a master's student as well. So share this waitlist with doctors you know, scan that. That takes you to our website. This is the current state of hospitals we work with. And think about this, judges. $100,000 in India takes you much further than it does if you deploy that in the US. Help us save doctors, improve the lives of patients, and we'll take any questions.
Help doctors see patients.
Exactly.
So great call on launching these on WhatsApp. I guess when you're outside the US, you understand how prevalent WhatsApp is and how people rely on it for business. I was a bit unclear on how you're interacting with the patient and the doctor. I understand the medium is WhatsApp, but walk through the value proposition again for me, please.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So a patient checks in via WhatsApp, makes their appointment, enters details. When they see the doctor doesn't have to do a check-in. They already see their previous medical conditions, et cetera. The whole appointment is recorded, and it goes through this agentic AI, which at the end of the appointment can summarize the entire interaction, store the entire transcript and summary, point out key prescriptions, conditions, anything that's worthy of pointing out and emphasizing in the health record. And finally, it'll point out any errors. For instance, if they prescribe 5 milligrams of Tylenol, it'll be like, that must be an error. This probably is 500 milligrams, et cetera. And then that will go through a final review by the doctor, be approved. And that will sort of be a streamlined way of storing this. This will be attached to the patient file. If they go to a different hospital that carries our system, this will be also carried there.
Are you recording voice notes on WhatsApp, or are you recording the interaction, and do you need consent to do that?
So the recording is going on in a web interface, and I'll let you talk about consent.
Yeah, so there's informed consent when they use WhatsApp. So the agent will ask specifically for consent, but the way their voice is recorded is on a mobile application. We aren't building an app. That's too much friction. It's just a website. Doctors open the website on their phone, click record. It saves it securely to the backend. We can also do on-prem.
Have you considered the privacy considerations around this and also getting patients comfortable with the privacy element of this?
Yeah, totally. So the privacy and consent are super important to us. So we're working with top law firms in India to make sure that the way we're designing the product from day one is compliant. India's privacy laws recently changed this past January, so we've had to actually tweak some parts of the product to make sure that we're making sure that we get consent for the data that we're storing. And at this point, we're not doing anything with data, we're not licensing it. And so that part of the business will be built out hand in hand with the government and with the lawyers.
Also, the social aspect of privacy is very different in India, and they sat in for a doctor consulting patients, and the patients didn't really care. It looks like a DMV. For most of these hospitals that we're targeting, patients don't mind as much as they would in the US.
And is your company a US-based company? Is it in India? So I'm curious, like, you're a US-based company where your primary business is India. So tell me a little bit about that decision process.
Yeah, the American company owns our IP. It's better for IP protection, but we have an Indian company that actually does the operations. All the data that's stored is through the Indian company on-prem. All our servers that we use are based in India for data privacy reasons. So the US company holds the IP, and it's easier to raise capital through that vehicle as opposed to the Indian.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Stage Zero Health.
Mic test, mic test.
All right. All right, hello everybody. I'm Jonathan Roman, and we are Stage Zero Health, and we're building the operating system for cancer early detection. Our team brings deep expertise in launching innovative health products. I was at Exact Sciences and Abbott launching Cologuard and multi-cancer early detection, previously at Aetna and CVS, and the rest of the team has deep clinical experience as well as go-to-market in the digital health space. If there's one thing I want you to take away today, it's that cancer screening is broken. 1 in 3 people will be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime, and only 1 in 5 of those cancers are found using screening, with over 50% of them being detected at a later stage. Part of the problem related to this is that we use something called clinical guidelines, which is based off of population health statistics. And so even though we can personalize tumor treatments and cancer treatments, we can't personalize prevention. So to make this a little bit more relatable, this is Sarah. She's 47. She's a marketing manager at CVS and a mom of 2. And her mother had colon cancer at 55. And so she has many different types of cancer screenings that she needs to do. As I mentioned, most of those screenings will be based off of population health standards. And so oftentimes people are skipping their screenings. And then in addition to that, oftentimes those screenings don't actually ever find cancer. And this costs her employer a lot of money. For every late-stage cancer diagnosis, on average, it costs about $1 million in late-stage cancer claims because we're getting so good at treating cancer. And it's the top growing claim for employers and their #1 problem for 4 years in a row. What we do for Sarah at Stage Zero Health is we make cancer screening deeply personal. Using our proprietary algorithm that we built at MIT's Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Lab in the clinical decision-making group, we take a number of inputs and combine all of the models in the past to create a new type of model that actually allows us to be more accurate at predicting somebody's 5- and 10-year chances of developing cancer. Cancer risk doesn't mean anything if you don't do anything about it. And so what we then do is we pair that with decision-making, where we compare that to clinical guidelines to determine what type of screening you should do, and then we actually pair you up with a care navigator who ensures that you do that screening. Each time we do that, we're improving our algorithm, and our goal is to bake this into every health system across the US. Why employers love this, and we've already have a number that we've been working with, is because we also prioritize at-home testing. So part of the thing related to cancer screening is you have to go into a facility. And oftentimes those health systems have optimized for cost and when you can do things at home. And so taking a page out of what I learned at Exact Sciences, we have many things that we can just ship to you and you can do those screenings. And it costs the employer a lot less money. Today we have an app, but we really don't want you to use it. We really want you to use it to get onboarded and to do the integrations that we need. And our whole goal there is to get to know you and calculate your risk, Then we guide you to do your screenings, we make sure that you get there, and then we stay with you long term to make sure that you're doing the most accurate screenings every year. Why we're different is our competitors own fragments. They're often focused on one test, or they're focused on one piece of the puzzle, and we're creating a closed loop system that allows us to constantly learn. And in the real world, many of these things would not collaborate with each other, right? Exact Sciences is not going to collaborate with Invitae and boost cancer screening accuracy. That's what we do. In today's world, employers lose about $41 per member per month to cancer screening. To put this in context, for every 10,000 employees, there will be about 15 employees that are diagnosed with cancer that year. Our goal is to shift the stage of when those cancers are detected earlier. We're starting out with a $5 billion wedge in the employer-sponsored space. And from there, we're looking to jump into health systems, where we're focusing on Stars HEDIS ratings and boosting rates related to that, and then move on to insurance. This couldn't have been built 10 years ago. There's a lot of things that are happening. The most important is that a new mandate came out earlier this year, reducing the cost that employees have to pay for cancer screenings, and so employers' costs are going up without them actually getting the meaningful outcomes that they want. To date, we've done over 500 screenings on our platform. We have 7 different cancer types validated, and we have over two employers in the contracting phase. So to end, cancer treatment has become personalized. I think prevention should be too. We are looking for 100K to get us to start to build out these pilots that we already have in place. Thank you.
Can you talk about HIPAA compliance and how you're baking that into all of this process?
Yep. I focused on product and technology at CVS Health and Exact Sciences Abbott. And so we've built HIPAA compliance into the very fabric of what we do. Everything's encrypted at rest, and we follow all the guidelines related to that.
Great job. How do you know it's working? How do you measure?
Yeah, so the most interesting thing is that health systems today use the weakest sort of cancer models, because the more advanced the cancer model is, the more inputs it requires. So Dana-Farber or Sloan Memorial will use advanced ones, other health systems don't. And so what we're going to market with are already the ones that are academically and clinically proven at the best health systems, and we're making that accessible to every person, essentially, in their pocket.
Curious on the business model and the pricing. Either I missed it or it was too quick.
Yeah, so I'll just talk to it. So the pricing model is we basically charge $2.50 per member per month. We've intentionally kept this very low. Where we get paid is related to outcomes. So when a person does their entire cancer screening navigation through us, we get $250 for that from the employer. And then part of the thing that we're working towards is a 30% cost share related to cost savings that employer will have. So the two outcomes that we're really looking for is, did that person do their screening, which is what the employer really wants? And then the second thing is, did we shift cancer to earlier stages? And so we get paid based on those outcomes. So it's all about the ROI to an employer, where if we're finding cancer at stage 1 or 2, it's dramatically cheaper in comparison to stage 3 or 4.
We get paid if they do it.
We get paid $250 per member per month, and we only get paid if they do it. That's correct.
Why you keep talking about employers and not the payers? I mean, I know the employers are payers, but you're ignoring the payers?
Yeah, so we've sort of intentionally built the model where we're starting with employers because they're easier to sell to and they have a hair on fire problem in today's world. Where we're sort of looking to go from there is to build upon the momentum of all of the actuarial data of, like, here's how many times we shifted cancer, here's all of these different things that we show. We don't need 100% of the population to use it. Our goal is to identify those at the highest risk, and those people naturally are using the product more than people who are at average risk. And so our goal is to start here. We're then expanding to brokers, who are the ones that actually work with employer benefits, and we've already been connecting with a number of them. And from there, we're going to be expanding to health systems, and then insurance is sort of the 5-year plan.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Up next, we have Multiply.
Can you guys hear me? All right. Hi guys, my name is Dylan and I spent 3,000 hours in manufacturing facilities. I'm here to tell you about Multiply, where we turn any robot arm into a flexible manufacturing worker. But before I get too far into that, I want to tell you a story. About a year ago, I found myself in central Massachusetts, walking the plant floor of this small manufacturer. And as these CNC machines are buzzing behind me and steel beams are clanking and saws are whirring, I see all these operators rushing from station to station. And I turn to the plant manager by my side and I ask him, hey man, why don't you consider hiring some more people on board, bringing some more folks into the operation, or maybe even automating some of these like boring tasks? And he turns back to me and he says, I've had to explain this to my board 6 times already. It's so hard to find people to hire in manufacturing because there's a massive labor shortage. And when we try to automate things, we have an automation consultant coming in every single week, pitching us scammy products that are going to be millions of dollars. If we do this project and it doesn't work out for us, I have to fire my brother, my cousin, and my best friend from high school who work in the same operation. As I reflected on that story, and I did some research, I found that over 2 million jobs in manufacturing will be vacant by the end of this decade. You may be thinking just like I was, where are the missing robots? Well, it turns out that one automation project to make a product as simple as a pen or a pencil can cost $3 million. And most of that is in the software. 85% of its software charges, bringing in consultants that rewrite robotic programs line by line by line. Then they break down as soon as your manufacturing task needs change. This is not an isolated incident. There are hundreds of thousands of manufacturers just like this one in central Massachusetts. And we talked to them. We went out and we talked, we knocked on doors, we walked to conferences and trade shows. We kept hearing the same thing. It's hard to hire and it's expensive to automate. We heard this so much that we decided we have to fix it. We at Multiply are using AI to turn any off-the-shelf robot arm into a flexible, automated manufacturing worker. Our systems are highly flexible. They're adaptive to manufacturing needs as your task changes. They're low cost, 90% cheaper than the legacy solutions. And of course, they're relentless. These robots work 24/7, 365. This is not just a pie-in-the-sky idea on a pitch deck. We have a real prototype. In my co-founder's robotics lab here at MIT, they have a system that uses a VR headset to train robots with your bare hands, not rigid lines of code. To give a little more detail of how this works, first, you give a VR headset that's low cost to a blue-collar worker with no special training. They demonstrate their workflow with their bare hands, and meanwhile, our proprietary AI algorithm watches, learns, and clones this behavior on a real robot. The robot steps in and the human steps out of the loop. And then most importantly, we can repeat this cycle over and over and over flexibly. This generates a data flywheel for us, where we have the data to make our AI better as we go. We are the perfect team to do this. Like I said, I spent thousands of hours on manufacturing floors learning the nature of this business. My co-founder, Alex, built this system you've seen from scratch, the full robotic engine. And Alejandro on our team used to design AI-driven robotic spacecraft. We are as cracked as it gets from MIT. And we're backed by world-class advisors too. Tenured MIT professors and former deep tech founders. We've made so much progress so far. We have 3 factories that are itching to get our product in their facility, and they're ready for it as soon as it's ready. We need 100K support to turn these commitments into deployments. We're starting in the small market of 3D printed part manufacturing. and we're scaling up to the $500+ billion market that is all of manufacturing labor. Come with us at Multiply as we change the future of work.
Great stuff. Are you pre-training the arms, or are you allowing your customers to train those arms and replace or multiply the workers, augment the workers?
I think our initial approach is to be boots on the ground with our customers, so offer a white glove approach and service the tasks that they want to complete with the robots. So this means starting off the data flywheel with a hands-on approach, and as we scale to other customers, our AI algorithms can start taking over those kinds of processes.
Great job. Your video examples were sort of pick and pack. But then you said your first customer is you're targeting 3D printing, and so that's not. Can you explain more about what you mean by 3D? That 3D printing means something very different.
Yeah.
Me. So I just didn't get what you're
No,
targeting.
totally. I would love to elaborate. When I was an Apple engineer, very often we would have to prototype parts. That means put them in a 3D printer and bring a 3D design file into life in the printer. But then during 3D printing, that's just the first step.
Yep.
There's a lot of what they call post-processing that happens after. So usually the workflow is you start the print, then you take it out of the printer, you put it into like an IPA alcohol bath.
Yep.
You let that wait for about 45 minutes.
Okay.
Then you take that out. You put it in a curing with
I'm
UV
with you.
light. I mean, there's a lot
Yep.
of steps and steps
So
and
it's
steps. I don't wanna bore you.
post-processing. It's post-processing.
Post-processing.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Can you talk a little bit about pricing and margin on the robots themselves, if there's going to be a layer on top of that for the software, your new software kind of algorithm? Just talk a little bit about that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to charge per hour for these robots. After talking to manufacturers, they don't really like to own capital equipment. They like to charge out of their OpEx budget. So we're charging basically the way you charge for a human worker. We're charging about $7, a little more than $7 an hour at scale. Compare that to about $25, $30 an hour. That's the industry standard in that space. Meanwhile, that allows our customers to reach payback on day one. And then meanwhile, we own the robots, we own the data, and then we create that flywheel as an effect.
Last question. All right, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
So up next, we have Scriptify.
How many people here have a chronic disease or know somebody with a chronic disease? Raise their hand. So if you have a chronic disease yourself, or if you know somebody with a chronic disease, like raise it and raise it high. So essentially, 2 out of 3 people in this room right now has a chronic disease. But if we were to focus on a population that were over the age of 65, the elderly population, our grandparents, your neighbors, that accounts for 9 out of every 10 Americans in the US who are over the age of 65 have a chronic disease. But the real issue here is what's happening to these chronically ill elderly people with chronic diseases in America. Well, the first thing is that their pharmacy is closing down. The pharmacy that they go to go pick up their medications have been closing, making it harder for them to take care of themselves. And then in between their doctor visits, most of these chronically ill elderly patients have multiple care providers. In between these doctor visits, they're super fragmented and they don't have any type of consistent care, making their conditions worsen over time. And lastly, because of the inconsistency of their doctor visits, a lot of the data that can be used to support clinical research has been completely fragmented. And all 3 of these problems compound because most clinical businesses in America are built around doctors and hospitals where there's a lot of inconsistent engagement with the patient. But there's no clinical model being built around the pharmacy where these patients engage every single month. So that's why we created Scriptify. Scriptify is a telemedicine clinic that would integrate into these pharmacies that these patients go into to be able to close that clinical gap and turn every prescription that comes into the pharmacy now into an opportunity to bridge that care gap, but a longitudinal point of data. And the biggest insight is that we visit our pharmacy 35 times a year compared to twice a year sometimes if you go to the doctor. But insurance only pays $200 a month per patient for any patient that comes through this opportunity through their doctor and clinic. And in the last 10 years that this opportunity has been created, only 5% of the market has been captured. So Scriptify is going to become that clinic by way of telemedicine, and we're going to integrate into the pharmacy, unlocking that clinical distribution channel for each pharmacy to give patients access to better care. And the solution is very simple. Our telemedicine platform integrates into the pharmacy management system that's used to dispense medications to be able to identify which patients are the most at risk for a chronic disease, but also eligible for this opportunity that their insurance will pay for. We then prompt the pharmacy to capture the consent of that patient into this clinic, and then the patient gets a phone call from their pharmacy, not from Scriptify, because we work for the pharmacy. And during that phone call, we're able to capture all of the clinical insights that's necessary to support the patient, but that also becomes data that's used to support the rest of the value chain. And we're now able to document this and submit it into the insurance and be collected the payment, and then we share the payment back to the pharmacy, creating a new revenue stream for the pharmacy, bridging the care gap for the patient, but then also unlocking a new form of data that can support clinical trial. And now we're able to close these care gaps for these patients who don't necessarily have any other way to get consistent care. The value created now increases the way we're going to be able to support these patients. And the time is right now because Medicare and just healthcare in America in general is changing. This is payer agnostic, so any payer is participating in this. We can support any type of chronic disease or any combination of disease. And most of the regulation in the US is allowing pharmacists to expand their clinical scope of practice. Our team was called the strongest healthcare team in this competition, and it was called that for a reason. We have clinicians from Harvard, engineers from MIT, and myself, I was an ex-pharma researcher studying metabolic disease, and we have some of the strongest regulatory advisors in the US. We have about 200 pharmacies right now that we've contracted for a pilot, and we're going to be able to use this 100K to support getting penetration into our first pharmacies this year. Thank you.
Great job. Can you review the value you're capturing? So it's basically the economic model that you're able to get reimbursed for by insurance that you then split with the pharmacy, because they're not, the pharmacist's not a doctor. And so what is getting reimbursed by insurance?
Yes, so remember, we become the telemedicine clinic, right? So Scriptify is getting paid from the insurance. Okay. And because we embed into the pharmacy, right here, where we're simply replacing the hospital that usually bills insurance. So as a clinic, Scriptify can build insurance. And then we integrate into the pharmacy by way of API to identify the patients. And that's what allows us to get paid from insurance. And then we are able, through a fair market value, to avoid any kickback laws or any of the regulatory, barbed wire. And we're able to then pay the pharmacy. So this creates a new revenue stream because the clinic is paying the pharmacy.
Understood. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you talk a little bit about the expertise in the clinic? Like where are you training the data that will be Scriptify's brain essentially?
Yeah, so great question. So we're getting two data inputs. The first input is going to be any prescription data that comes in through the pharmacy. So any drug product they're taking, the diagnosis that the prescriber gives the patient associated with the drug product. But then we're also, as a clinic, every time I talk to you, every interaction that I have with you is a new form of data that we're generating. Now, compared to when you see a hospital, which is expensive and inaccessible, they can only generate data on you but so many times, especially if you're chronically ill, because you don't see them often. But I'm seeing you every month, maybe multiple times a month. So every single time I talk to you is a new point of clinical data that we're able to get. And this is not quantitative. The quantitative data comes from the pharmacy, right? Because that data is already harnessed there. We're capturing the qualitative data. How are you doing today? How is this medication making you feel? Why didn't you get a refill? So we can contextualize a lot of the things that the pharmacy is missing by way of being the clinic that generates it.
I'm a bit confused because if you're a virtual clinic, you're providing care, you're measuring vitals, you're understanding the patient, and then you're guiding that patient into, I don't know, a treatment or changing the medications. You're talking about interactions, which could only be, hey, how are you feeling? How can you bill for that?
Yeah, great question. So the reimbursement pathway that Scriptify is basically leveraging right now is simply to basically follow up on patients who have a lot of medications. So right now, payers in America are incentivizing the outcomes of patients, and the only way you can truly measure those outcomes is by collecting that feedback and sort of augmenting whatever medications that patient is being given. So as a telemedicine clinic, we're not here trying to essentially replace, let's say, a primary care provider. We only have one function, and that's after you pick up your meds from the pharmacy, your doctor already prescribed you. They already gave you instructions. Most people don't follow the instructions. So we're enforcing those instructions, and by enforcing those instructions, we're going to now be able to measure why you're not taking the medication, why you want to continue to up the dose, and because we're not trying to conflict with the relationship between a pharmacy and the doctor, and we work for the pharmacy, any notes or any documentation that we produce, we template it into a way for the pharmacy to communicate back into the primary care provider, so we don't disrupt that relationship.
All right, thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Next up is LubDub Lab.
Thanks.
So, good evening. I'm Yarini, and I'm a physician scientist. John comes from a healthcare consulting background, and Kohei has experience scaling regulated medical devices, and we are also MIT Sloan Fellow MBAs. I was 15 when I was in the back of an ambulance with my mother, and I held her hand the whole way. 5 years later, I lost my father, same disease, same way. My mother was 45, my father was 55. No warning signs, and apparently healthy. 20 years later, after that ambulance ride, as a doctor and as a scientist studying heart disease, I can tell you that nothing has changed for the patients. We accept that 20 million people die every year from heart disease, 650 million live with it, and 1.5 billion are at risk of it and don't even know it. We screen for breast cancer, we screen for colon cancer, but for something which kills more than both combined, we shrug. And it gets even stranger after diagnosis. Heart failure, you go home with a weighing scale. Clogged arteries, you go home with a pill box and a 3-month follow-up. The sickest of patients get a $20,000 implant, which streams data back to their cardiologists at elite centers. Everyone in between gets a weighing scale and a prayer. We also know that 1 in 4 of these patients will come back to the hospital within a month, and we just don't do anything about it.
But the signal we need has always been here, is in our voice. We just need to unlock it. When our heart weakens, fluid builds up within our lungs and vocal cords, and that changes how our voice sounds. It's not noticeable in our naked ear, but with machine learning, we'll be able to pick up these signals much earlier. We're building a data set of 1,000 patients, running 5 clinical studies across 3 countries, and we're already seeing some very promising results from the first 50 patients that we enroll. For example, for heart failure patients, their harmonics to noise ratio is much lower than healthy individuals, meaning that their voice is significantly more unclear. The voice is also more shaky, meaning that their voice ability to sustain pitch is much lower. And there are 20 other vocal features in our voice that we can tap into and analyze. We have signed 2 LOIs with hospitals in the US and also in India to help us bring this solution to life. So how does this actually work in a day-to-day? My father lives in Hong Kong, so I call him occasionally on FaceTime and on WhatsApp call. With consent, our app can listen to our conversations passively, not for the contents, but for the acoustic and breathing features in our voice. And by the end of the conversation, our app can return an instant risk score of our heart health, giving us the peace of mind of, say, how my father's heart is doing. Distance is not a barrier to caring for the health of the people that we love. If privacy is a concern, alternatively, there is always an option to upload a 30-second voice recording into our app or have an AI agent give you an automatic voice call at any designated time of the day. Simple and effortless, and 30 seconds of voice recording is all we need every day. This is also a very sizable market. In the US right now, there's roughly 122 million patients living with some form of heart disease. In our beachhead market of heart failure and coronary artery disease, this is a patient population of 28 million. Our platform runs at $600 per patient per year, and this translates to a 17 billion market. And the health economics works too. One avoided readmission into a hospital would save the health system $15,000. That is sufficient to cover 25 patients on our platform. And hospitals are eager buyers of our platform because they're being penalized by Medicare and Medicaid right now for excess readmission into the health system, especially during the 30 days of discharge. We're also pursuing regulatory approval with the FDA, and with FDA clearance, we will be able to unlock full payer reimbursement. 4 things have to be true for our solution to come to life, and they all just came true. Voice is everywhere. Think Siri, Alexa, telemedicine. The scientific evidence is robust and plenty. Machine learning is here. FDA regulations are ready. If you're like myself or my father, we are lifelong hypertension patients at high risk of developing heart disease. Or you may be like Kohei, our co-founder, where heart disease already runs in their family. Chances are you would not wait for someone else to build this solution.
I can save my mother and I can save my father, but this will help other 15-year-olds ensure that their parents are there for their birthdays, graduation, and life beyond. Thank you.
Great job. When you were talking about FaceTime, this occurs to me as to be the kind of thing that Apple Health would want to get into with earbuds and FaceTime infrastructure. So what is the moat that would keep this being its own thing versus Apple just embedding it in its products?
Apple is not necessarily looking into these vertical technologies right now. I think if you know heart failure patients or heart disease patients, it is important for them, for the solution to run on multiple platforms. So Apple is not keen into building a multi-portal entry point for these heart disease patients. They would just want a solution to work on their platform. And they're not looking into these data right now. I mean, they're really keen on looking into Apple Watch, but not necessarily voice.
So you're talking about chronic heart failure, and that's something you get diagnosed, and sometimes you go to the ER and you get discharged, and I understand the 30-day readmission penalty. That seems that the value proposition is for the hospital, right? And what you're offering is like clinic at hospital at home or virtual clinic type of service. That means that your data set also has to be from people that already have chronic heart failure, and that you can predict any complications for those patients. Is that where your studies are, and is that the right beachhead?
So right now we're focused on people who already are diagnosed with heart failure, and we then do a longitudinal monitoring of those patients, and that's how we are building the data set so that we can actually accurately show causation and correlation in voice. But our vision is to actually make it a screening tool. So anybody who's high risk, like hypertensives and diabetics, can also be used in a telemedicine setting or a remote setting where it can be used for that purpose as well.
I'm curious, the example you used was that you had no clue in your mother's case that there was an issue. So to prevent that, who would buy it? Like, would anybody have to buy it just to be prevent if you don't know that you have this issue?
So I think primary care, right, is where we get our annual checkups. That could be a place where this can be deployed, because the earlier you catch the disease, earlier you can actually manage from lifestyle modifications to statins and everything else. And that's where the whole, there's a gap right now because one, we do not have enough cardiologists and we do not have enough primary cares in rural settings as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, LubDub Lab. We will ask that you remain seated during the individual presentations just to reduce any of the distractions. Next up, we will have Autolab.
Do I click forward? Ooh.
Test?
You good to go? Okay. Hi, we are Autolab. My name is Serge. I train AI models at Harvard Medical School for clinical sciences. This is Artem, my co-founder. He trains models at MIT in his PhD and also previously at DeepMind and Meta Research. And this is my co-founder, Sean. He also trained models at Amazon and was forward-deployed engineer at Eli Lilly, solving a lot of machine learning challenges at scale. We're deeply familiar about machine learning training. It is slow and expensive. And the main problem is the humans. The reason is because when humans do machine learning experiments, they do so sequentially. So they analyze the previous data, they hypothesize what are the next set of experiments to run, they configure, and then they wait for the training run to finish. As a result, a lot of these GPUs, which are extremely expensive to provision, are sitting idle, waiting for the experiment's results. So a recent report in industry has estimated that around 95% of all GPUs, except for the Anthropics of this world, are actually not utilized efficiently. The other big problem with machine learning engineering is the fact that coding itself with tools like Claude Code only is solving 15% of the whole problem. Majority of the time, machine learning engineers are spending looking at logs and graphs and trying to decide what is the next best experiment to run. We are here to solve exactly that problem such that engineers can work more efficiently, spend more time thinking about the next best experiment while the GPUs are working and cranking 100% of the time.
So this is why we're building Autolab. The right mental model for what we're building is Cursor for machine learning engineers. So it's literally this like last mile delivery of agents helping people to train models and helping them gather all the context, gather all the information about GPUs, and make the next run most efficient. So imagine you're an ML engineer at Pfizer. You're training very important models that do drug discovery. And it's very important because hopefully you will discover a drug that will save lives. So what's happening is typically in your company, you will have lots of GPUs just lying around. Some of them were purchased, and people don't really use them anymore because, I don't know, they probably have better GPUs that are more efficient, right? Some of the GPUs, like H200s, were rented, and because they're so hard to get right now, even if you pay a lot of money, you cannot really get your hands on it, they will be purchased and pre-allocated for a long time. So the first thing you do with Autolab, you connect all of this compute, even your old 1080 that's been lying under your table, you connect it and bring it to Autolab. In that case, the agent from Autolab will understand what compute you have, and it will make sure that every single GPU, every single node of compute is grinding 100% of the time to make sure your model gets better. The second thing you're doing is you're providing the history, right? So you probably for like a year of work, you trained thousands of models. Every single train generated gigabytes and gigabytes of data that contains these very valuable nuggets of information that's very hard to get. How to train your specific model. And it's humanly impossible for you to go through every single log and understand what's happening. So that's why Autolab, using LLMs, obviously, goes and grinds through every single bit and surfaces very important insight, how to train the models. And this helps you to be much more efficient. It helps you to train models faster, cheaper, and more efficiently. So Autolab is already here. You can actually go and try it. It's in closed alpha, so if you sign up with your email, we'll probably give you access within the next week. You should go to autolab.sh. And I think we are very lucky to be building it on the weekly cycle. So we are running, we are fortunate to run one of the biggest and most active hacker community here around MIT and Harvard. It's called Sunday. Basically every single week, 60 to 100 people come together. And recently we started giving them Autolab and asking for feedback. So that's why we've been iterating very fast. We are on iteration number 5 right now. We are working with 3 companies who are training models from financial data to CUDA kernel optimization and handwriting synthesis. And we already see improvement. People achieve better results that were possible before without auto research and AutoLab.
So the spend on model training is huge, and we sit at the intersection of three really valuable points. First is the compute itself, second is the tokens, and third are the AI researchers and ML engineers. We plan to first launch with academic labs where we can learn how they train the best models, and then go to a typical SaaS model where we charge per seat and then for orchestration, memory, and the agent, but then also make money through managed compute and tokens. We believe that AutoLab represents a new paradigm in how models are trained, and we hope you can work with us to push forward the frontiers of scientific research. Thank you.
Can you just talk a little bit? It's awesome, the 5 cycles that you've gone through. Can you just give us like high level, what types of areas are you getting the feedback on? Where are you seeing the most need for iteration right now in the product?
Yeah, so I think it's been incredibly valuable to see how users react with this. Our goal here is to really, we believe that like the benefit of Coursera was this really like seamless UX that makes a lot of sense and makes people addicted to this, right? That's like Coursera was probably one of the first examples that made people really addicted to vibe coding, right? And that's what we're trying to achieve here. And we have many stages in our pipeline, right? So we have onboarding, creating of the constraints and creating of the project. We have like orchestration, node connection. And we started to see that some of them already started to be very smooth and intuitive to people. So like we literally sit behind the shoulders of our hackers and we see like what makes sense to them and what doesn't. So we believe that we are doing already a good job with onboarding and like explaining how to use and how to start the project. And some of the rough surfaces that we learned from the previous week iteration, and we are deploying this hack, and everyone's invited to come train little LLMs with us this Sunday. So some of the surface and tension points that we see there, they were about like understanding the changes between the jobs, understanding the current status of the orchestrator, so that like, you know, it's grinding like on this GPU and on this GPU and it's preparing this job, like really understanding the concept of this. So we have a new iteration that improves on these points, and hopefully we'll see the reaction that's better.
And just to add, so we worked with 3-4 companies so far on these iterations. So the last one was a laboratory here at MIT, the Han Lab. So they're building CUDA kernels. It was an extremely interesting task. It's not actually about training, just optimizing performance. So it taught us one thing. We also hacked with a Rich Miner's startup called InkAI, which is trying to optimize handwritten recognition of digits. So we're trying to really think about a variety of different problems that we can solve. The third company, which we actually kind of signed now as our first customer, paid customer, they're training models for financial data analysis for like credit card transactions. There's a spin out from MIT. And again, they find it very valuable because it cost them $100,000 for each training run, so they're very careful when they press the launch button. So for them to understand what are the different parameters that they should, you know, really think about is so important.
Time for one more question.
So I'm curious, what do you need the prize money for, and how will it help you?
So right now, like I said, we are really targeting academic labs, and researchers don't have a lot of money, especially personally. We can, sorry guys. We really want to subsidize usage. We think we can learn a lot from these academic labs at MIT and Harvard in our time here, especially in the next month before sort of we finish up and graduate and things like that. And so we would really value that money to be able to subsidize these researchers and learn as much as we can from them to improve this so we can really go to market with these startups effectively.
We burned like $1,600 last weekend to subsidize tokens for hackers. So it's valuable but expensive.
Awesome, thank you so much. Thank you. Awesome, next we have Sona 8.
We are building Sona 8, the first AI-native strategy consulting firm. As a team, we combine machine learning, AI expertise with consulting background. I'm here today with Eva, who is studying CS at MIT and is doing research at CSAIL. Thilo and myself, we spent the past couple of years at BCG, And we just saw the consulting world is broken, and we want to fundamentally rethink it. I believe that BCG, McKinsey, Bain are going to go to zero in the next, let's say, 5 to 7 years. I didn't know is probably one of the most expensive sentences in business. If you look at the major strategic failures, for example, at Facebook, Volkswagen, or FTX, they were all caused because the senior leadership did not understand what the employees were saying, and signals from the employees never reached the senior leadership and the CEOs. So today, they hire consultants to interview employees and have conversations with employees, but this doesn't work. 97% of the global workforce never gets any say into their company strategy. There's over 100 million hours spent by strategy teams and consulting firms to have conversations with employees about their strategy and their work, and a whopping $300 billion is spent annually on consulting. We can do that better. We can give 30 times more people a voice in the strategy of their companies. We can be 13 times faster than a legacy consulting firm and 60 times cheaper. Eva, how do we do this?
So now I'll show you all a demo of what it's like to speak to one of our AI voice agents that conducts these interviews with employees.
Hi, thanks for calling. It's Jeff on the line. At Amazon, we're always looking for ways to make things simpler, faster, and better. My goal here is to figure out how we can better support you and your team. Anything that comes to your mind?
Yeah, it's Eva from the marketing department in Seattle. Recently, I've been feeling like I've been having to run in a lot of loops of iteration.
Thanks, Eva. It sounds like you're experiencing some inefficiencies with team collaboration. Can you tell me more about these iterative loops?
Yeah, so I've been having to redo a lot of work due to late input from other departments, such as comms.
I understand. It sounds frustrating to have to redo work due to late input. How often does this happen with the communications department?
It happens pretty often, actually, and with other departments too.
I see. So it's not an isolated incident. What do you think is causing the delay in input from these departments?
So this wraps up our demo. So imagine this now scaled to thousands of employees across the entire organization. So after all of these conversations are held, these transcripts are then analyzed with an LLM on the back end, and the insights from these transcripts are parsed into a dashboard that faces the CEO and senior leadership, complete with action items and strategic recommendations. So let's have a look at what that looks like as well. So this is an example of a recommendation that would show on the CEO's dashboard. Here it says, establish cross-functional kickoff meetings. Now, this product is actually live right now with our pilots and design partners.
Our first paid pilot has a value over $20,000. Beyond this, we have 8 LOIs signed with paid pilots starting roughly around mid-year. Since our launch in January, we gained over 1,000 users on the Sona 8 platform who all conducted interviews with our AI voice agents. With the support of the 100K, we want to scale to 200K in ARR by September, and directly after that, raise our seed funding round. So join our journey, join Sona 8 in giving every employee a voice. Thank you.
So this is interesting. I've spent tons of money on BCG, millions. I'd love to replace him. Nothing personal, but I'm curious for the data. Like, how does your machine learning? My problem with BCG is they bring lots of consultants that've never been in the real world, from my view as an operator. Where did the answers come from, or the engagement? Like, where's the data? Where's the learning come from? Like, how are you any better?
So the biggest value, so first of all, great question, Andy. The biggest value I believe that I did at BCG was just consolidating what I heard and putting pieces together from different areas. And that's exactly what we do, just at a much bigger scale, and by getting like 30 times more input from way more employees. This is kind of right now the biggest unlock.
Great job. Tell us about what industries you're going to go after, for what type of employers, what industries, and why you're going after them first. First.
Very good question, Maya. So first of all, we're focusing on professional service companies. Let's say every company which has a vast majority of knowledge workers. Right now, they are very concerned about how they transform into the AI world. So the pilots that we are running right now are basically about asking employees kind of how they use AI, where they don't use AI, and which are the processes where they would like to use AI, and which are most tedious. And once we get all that feedback, we can give very, very concrete recommendations, which are the process steps where AI should be implemented.
So one of the reasons that CEOs like I used to hire consultants is so that we can say we don't know. We don't want the liability. We want to be able to blame it on BCG. That's what they're getting paid for. This shifts liability to me as the CEO that I did in fact know, and now I can't lie about it when I get called to Congress. So talk to me about how you break through basically that BCG is an expensive insurance policy for me being able to lie. I am not important enough to have gotten called to Congress, so I feel good about that. But as an example.
Yeah, Curtis, that's a question we hear a lot. And it's a question of time. If we have our first use cases, show our success stories, I'm pretty sure we will build up a brand, and then you as a CEO can say, Sona 8 talked to every single employee, and we heard that from Sona 8. And in that case, you will actually never be called to Congress because we hear everything what is going on in your organization.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oops. Thank you so much. Again, another reminder, if you're going to exit the room, please use the back doors over there so we can minimize noise and disruption during the presentations. Next up, we have Pixology.
Check. I see. So it's not.
Testing. All right. Everyone think of the craziest sports moment you can think of. The crowd's going wild, internet's blowing up with fan engagement. You might be thinking of the most recent buzzer beater by UConn over Duke. This was Braylon Mullen's most valuable moment of the season. However, behind the scenes, there's a big problem. This moment went completely unmonetized, and that's because business in sports is stuck in slow motion. This moment has a very short, limited lifespan of high engagement. However, schools and teams, leagues, and agencies are still designing with manual tools that take days to create graphics and animations to capture this moment. And also it takes weeks to then sponsor it through a very difficult compliance process. That's ultimately why we built Pixology, where we monetize the moment before it dies. Our agentic engine will detect this viral signal, be able to market to various other brand-side agents to capitalize on the optimal deal for our athletes, generate on-brand custom content with our LORA pipelines that complies with both NIL and other regulations, and to be able to post it directly on any medium. Right here, you see an example of how our brand-side agents could have capitalized on a deal with Rolex, and in seconds created an on-brand graphic under a campaign of precision under pressure, which matches both the moment for Rolex, the moment of the buzzer beater, and the brand. We are the team to solve this problem, led by ex-professional athletes and AI ML engineers. All three of us are MIT Sloan Fellow MBA students, and we're also joined by world-class advisors, such as Ben Shields, ESPN social media director for the past 15 years, and then Colette Watson, president of Rogers Sports and Media, who recently renegotiated the NHL's $12 billion media rights. We've completed the entire MIT ecosystem, and after completing MIT Fuse in January, we launched a beta version of our product in early February and have received 10 plus pilot requests and developed a pipeline of 40 plus warm relationships across our beachhead market of NCAA schools, both pro sports teams with test pilots with the Miami Dolphins and the Ottawa Senators, and also test piloting with Canada's largest sports broadcaster, Rogers Sportsnet. We apologize, Corey, for having BU's logo up here. We have been cold calling BC as much, and we will continue to try. But what's more exciting here is our customer usage statistics. We've had customers offload over 50 plus sponsorship deck graphic creations to our platform, and in less than 6 weeks, we've published over 100 graphics across various mediums. And per team, we're averaging over 4 hours a day of active usage. This is the exact time to capitalize on this. Since landmark legislation came out in 2021 ahead of the 2022 season, the NIL NCAA market has doubled from $1 billion to $2 billion, and it's expected to double again by 2040. And we are just at the first era where our proprietary diffusion and LoRa models and pipelines can accurately portray full body athletic imagery down to individualized player equipment and tattoos. And we can also handle the very messy compliance landscape for NIL that certainly needs to thin down the 4 weeks it currently takes today to sponsor something. And now I'll hand it to our CTO.
Hi. This is our platform, the Agentic OS for Sponsorship Economy. So there are 3 jobs in one system, end-to-end. We create the pitches, we capture the deal, and we deliver the activation. The barrier for our entire system and the moat for us is the layers below there. The agentic layer, where we have 6 specialized agents, which own each stage of the overall deal, but collaborate with each other with common background and collaboration. And the next layer, what we have is a context layer, where we have done our proprietary algorithms, especially LoRa pipelines, specifically and data graphs which are trained on brand guidelines and athlete images, and also the venue catalogs and etc. So all of this together are ensuring that we deliver on-brand, consistent, high quality images and graphics for all the needs. Today, we are already live with the capture layer, create layer, and by Q4, we'll be live with the capture layer. And 2027, we are hoping to have entire deal going through Pixology. And today, we are owning the creatives, but we aim to own the deals tomorrow.
Thank you.
Can you talk a little bit, does the athlete already need to be a Rolex brand partner, or is this like programmatic at scale where they see a moment and they do it? And if it's the latter, can you talk more about that?
Yeah, so there are multiple brand guidelines here. So there are, for example, universities already have prior tie-ups with some of the brands where, if some certain rules are already defined. For example, Rolex has already kind of, given its list of goods and bads of the brand guidelines, right? So the agents do understand them. And importantly, when a movement happens, both the sides, its brand compliance is for the brand as well as the school. Some of the schools would not want to do certain brands. Some of the athletes would not want to do certain kind of campaigns. So the ecosystem and the engine is tuned to kind of to analyze all these requirements in a fraction of seconds, and also kind of pitch for the brands so that they can kind of either approve or not approve. So basically, a plethora of inputs would come to the brands, but they're filtered down to the best matches, which they think are best for those brands.
Good job. 2 questions. One, who is your customer? Because there are multiple answers to that. And then your revenue. There are multiple cuts that have, right? You have to divvy up the revenue in multiple ways. And so just walk us through that.
Yeah, so our initial beachhead customer is going to be the NCAA school itself. That's going to be the head creative or VP of operations on the graphics team, who would be our direct economic buyer within the school. We also view professional teams and sports agencies as our customer too. So that's where we're not going to disrupt the existing agency ecosystem. This is a tool you sell to the agency. They look good for their athletes, make more money. They have their own separate arrangement with them that they arrange. So the athlete's seeing their transaction with the agency's doing business with us. To answer your question on money, right now we're doing paid pilots at $1,000 a month based off good testing with our pilot customers. We anticipate annual ARR contracts at either being anywhere from 30 to 120K per school, and then we would be rolling that up potentially higher for pro teams, and we'd be taking a platform fee on the transaction as well.
That's in our phase 2 where we want to come between the brand and the team, and we take the platform fee.
So, great job. Congrats on grading Ben. And the value proposition is clear, but once you've deployed and everyone understands that this is a good business, how are you defending the clients? Is it a land grab type of thing where you've established the contracts and they have to defend them, or is it technical? How are you thinking about that?
I think we are integrating very deeply with their current ecosystem. For example, our current customer, Rutgers, they're already asking for APIs and embedding deep with all their CRM platforms. So as we move closer to the transaction, we want to ensure the switching cost is going to be really, really high. So that is what we are getting.
And just to add to that, the tech side, the IP side is basically primarily we are training the model with the LoRa pipelines of those athletes and the university assets, all the venues and images of all of them. So these universities are, if they're comfortable to give to one party to kind of, render everything. So irrespective of that, once you've got one university, one athlete onboarded, and the switching cost is very high for them.
Thank you.
I'll take the. Okay, thank you so much. Next, we have Iceberg Systems.
Hi, I'm Ayush from Iceberg. We're building infrastructure to reimagine how risk is measured across the economy. As we speak, US government agencies are using Iceberg to monitor over $1 trillion of risk across the economy already. And over the next 5 minutes, I'm going to show you why every banker and insurer is about to need it too. So meet Jack. He's one of our design partners. He runs a $30 billion credit risk fund at Wells Fargo. And this morning, he has a very specific question on his desk: whether to refinance a 30-year mortgage for a luxury surgical clinic in Seattle or in Memphis. So he brings up his tools like Moody's, Bloomberg, all kind of employment data, and they give him a very clear answer for today. Seattle seems like the better choice at the moment. It's got higher income, good credit, and Jack picks Seattle. However, the economy is changing much faster than these statistical forecasts can anticipate. In Seattle, AI is eating up knowledge work that makes it possible to pay for luxury services, and in Memphis, manufacturing is rebuilding up the middle-class wages that allow us to walk into these clinics. So Jack's blind spot isn't his fault. It's structural, because contagions in financial markets don't spread because of how assets are connected, but because of how behaviors are. A $9 trillion shock to wages turns into a $1 trillion shock to loans a year later, and a $5 trillion shock to commercial real estate 6 months after that. And by the time this shows up in data, in credit scores or vacancy rates, it's already too late, and Jack's loan is underwater. So when we spoke to Jack, he already anticipates writing down 20% of his portfolio to risks he cannot currently anticipate. So we built Iceberg to do precisely that, to anticipate contagions and see the cascade before it shows up in real data. So Iceberg models interactions across millions of participants in the market, from individuals to firms to institutions, to estimate forward-looking risk scores for workers across the economy. You can measure it at the level of states. The core KPI we track is called the Iceberg Index, which you measure at the state. You can drill down to individual counties. For instance, right here in Jefferson County, right next to Seattle, the Iceberg Index platform helps measure exposure patterns across many worker demographics and also simulate how these risks ripples out to commercial real estate, Jack's loan book, and in each submarket across the entire economy. And Iceberg is the result of years of research in our lab at MIT. We've invented an entirely new class of AI models called large population models, which don't just allow us to build AI to capture how one agent acts, but build entire societies of AIs, millions of them that can work concurrently to predict risks across the economy. So the DOE helped and spent millions of dollars for us to deploy LPMs for the entire US economy, which runs on Frontier, the government's largest supercomputer, and it's already being used across the economy. For instance, over the last couple of years, Iceberg has helped the USDA flag billions of dollars in risks across the dairy supply chain, up to 6 months before they showed up in actual data. And at the moment, multiple US states are using Iceberg to track over $1 trillion of exposure for their workforce and infrastructure as we go into this new economy. And Iceberg has been extensively covered by the press. CNBC did like an entire 1-hour segment on it. And we've also recently raised support from a lot of for-profit institutions in like Frontier AI Labs, financial institutions, and Steve Ballmer to take Iceberg across the nation. And so we wanted to take Iceberg as an institution to the financial services sector. We're thinking of mortgage and credit risk intelligence as the beachhead market, which has a $30 billion investment per year in risk intelligence for these specific focuses. Our strategy is to first land with the Iceberg Index, have our data stream be consumed by the enterprises to measure risk on their portfolio, and then expand with the Iceberg simulation engine that allows us to evaluate counterfactual scenarios, predict risks, stress test interventions. And we're already starting to build an enterprise pipeline. We're working with a few insurers, large banks, private equity and credit risk funds to pilot the platform and test it. And our team has extensive experience across technology, science, and enterprise distribution. I'm Ayush. I built Iceberg over the last 5 years of my PhD with Ramesh. And Shantanu on our team provides the financial services expertise. He used to be the CTO of the NatWest Bank, got a PhD in physics at NASA. And Vedika used to run like private equity due diligence at BCG and runs go-to-market strategy for Iceberg. Thank you.
Great job. If I understood correctly, you're trying to avoid overpricing of risk by incorporating possible black swan events. How do you know? Because it's really hard to predict the future, right? So are you giving that person that's pricing that risk a better overview of things that he or she might not have considered? And how do you know it's working?
So I would say like it's not just black swan events. So a lot of most of what Iceberg does a really good job of is like anticipating second and third order estimates of events. So there can be a lot of events that are not black swan, but like they'll have like a very like sort of modelable contagion effect that you cannot anticipate if you're just looking at statistical forecasts. If you're like trying to forecast variable, you cannot like guesstimate them, but the ability to do second and third order effects works. And we do extensive like back testing for each application before we deploy it. So in all scenarios that we work with, like either with government departments or any of these like financial institutions, like there's a lot of like rigorous backtesting that goes into models before they get deployed. For instance, like all the state governments that use our like infrastructure to measure like labor risk, our platforms have been backtested on the last 20 years of all data that the BLS delivers. So the primary backtest there was that we used our model to predict basically 85% of all job transitions that happen for 40 million people across the country entirely in a closed sandbox to give them confidence that our models are like able to capture transition pathways, and then we give numbers there.
Great job. My question is a little bit unusual. Given the insights that you can predict, is the bigger opportunity to sell access or to trade? Right, use use the model for your own insights and build a hedge fund.
So I mean, I would say like, so at the moment, so the way I see it is a lot like Moody's, like what Moody's was doing a lot for like credit risk in the past. We want to do it for like the new economy, like labor risk and beyond. So I mean, we are sort of doing like LOIs with like a few private equity funds in the area to figure out like can we help them do like better roll-ups and like reorganization on their portfolio first. So maybe at some point in the future, but like for the time being, it's like, how do we make sure like richer and more dynamic data streams accessible to people and the ability to like simulate?
I mean, it's a data business. It's a data business or a proprietary, right? I don't know the answer, but.
Yeah, I think the beachhead will remain financial risk intelligence, but obviously you can do much more beyond that as time goes on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Iceberg. Next up, we have Script Bio AI.
Hi, everyone. My name is Pat. I'm the CEO and founder of Script Bio AI, a company that is looking to reduce the burden of age-related diseases through fine-tuned AI foundation models as well as stem cell engineering. The problem is that our longevity is extending, but our health span is lagging behind. About half of the people in this room will actually suffer from an age-related disease. And I'm talking about things like Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, sarcopenia, osteoarthritis, and so on. And the issue is that the current drugs, they tackle these diseases when it's way too late, the damage is done, and it's irreparable. There is no going back. This is costing the US economy about $4.9 trillion. The current drugs, they just basically treat and they only manage the symptoms. And there are zero therapies targeting the root aging biology behind them. This mission to me is personal because my mother suffers from Alzheimer's disease. My dad suffered from Parkinson's disease for many years. So I've seen up close how devastating these diseases are and how little the current drugs are doing for these patients. Our solution is to use, basically to use AI to find the causal drivers of the disease and then use the stem cells to deliver the fix. Basically, how this works is that we gather a lot of patient cell data, which we feed into our AI discovery engine, and then the output is a customized engineered cell therapy that targets the age-related disease. Our AI discovery engine has been trained on millions of healthy and diseased cells. It has a causal layer, and it simulates the treatment in our workstation before actually taking the targets into the lab. So it reduces the risk of failure. Regarding engineered cell therapy, we can engineer several targets into the stem cells, and the therapy itself involves one single injection with a lasting benefit between 6 to 12 months, which is ideal for the elderly. We are a very interdisciplinary team. I have 16 years of experience in stem cell engineering, 2 US patents, and currently doing an MBA at Sloan. Assam, my AI lead, has a PhD in agentic AI, currently doing an MBA. June has, sitting over there, has 18 years of experience in cell therapy manufacturing, as well as 3 IND filings. And Sandra is an expert on aging biology. Our lead indication would be knee osteoarthritis because it's a very large market. There are 5 million Americans suffering from it, and there are 0 approved disease-modifying therapies for it. And there is also a very clear FDA path with clear measurable endpoints. Our AI already works. We have fed our foundation model with knee osteoarthritis data. We have found we have found 5 genes that are very well known to do with knee osteoarthritis, shown here in bold. But more interestingly, we have found 15 completely novel targets that when we compare it to GWAS studies, there was a 27 enrichment above chance. And we have in total found 50 targets, and currently the IP is in progress. AI drug discovery right now deals at a record highs. Just a few weeks ago, Eli Lilly made a deal with Insilico Medicine, another AI drug discovery company, valued at $2.75 billion. And we are following a similar revenue model where during the first 3 years, we are an AI target discovery platform where we get revenue by doing pilots with pharma to basically find their targets for them to develop. And once we find a target ourselves, we spin that out into a therapeutic. We have made real progress in the last 9 months. We incorporated in July 2025. We bought a GPU workstation, self-funded. We have an MVP. We are part of the AI BioHub from Lab Central and CTAN Labs. So this means we currently have lab space to now test our targets. So with the $100,000, what we would do is validate our top 3 AI targets in human stem cells, since we have the Lab Central labs ready. And what we feel that it will unlock is a $3 million seed round and strengthen our SBIR phase 1 application. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll try to answer any questions.
Can you just talk a little bit how you make money? doing this?
Sure. So basically, we will have, let me go back. So during the first 3 years, we will basically do pilots with pharma, where we'll, and the pilots usually go between 250,000 and 750,000. So it'll be basically the only cost will be the workstation, the GPUs. So we have a gross margin of about 80% on this. And as I said, they pay between 250 and 750. We basically find the causal drivers for the specific indication, and they develop the drug. It's a very similar model to what in Silicon Medicine is doing, what they started doing.
So as you've noted, this is kind of like a hot area right now. How do you differentiate yourself from your competitors or potential competitors?
Yeah. So our moat is like 3 things. So basically, our 6th layer of our AI infrastructure, that is IPable. And also, in comparison to in silico, we are joining basically the AI drug discovery as well as the stem cell engineering. So in silico is not doing this, and we are also targeting age-related diseases, which they are not doing. So the in silico Eli Lilly deal was not targeting any age-related diseases. And we believe that if we can basically show causality, which is something that is very hard to do, and that these companies are currently not doing, that's another differentiator. So we want to get there, but in order to truly prove causality, we actually need to do the experiments in the lab.
Just on the demand side, I'm not that familiar with your space. I only know I'm a diabetic 1, and there's barely any research done because just not enough sick people. So, which is frustrating as a patient, but the way you picked your diseases, is there enough interest of pharma to really have a scalable business? I'm just curious if you've done the research from versus going for a diabetic 2 or something more typical. Like, is there enough money in people dying and aging?
Yeah, I think there is. Just osteoarthritis is 360 million people suffering from it, and the current standard of care is just a full knee replacement surgery, which costs about $50,000, whereas our treatment will cost about $10,000. We've done a lot of PMR as well, and found that nobody wants to go for the full knee replacement surgery. Sometimes it doesn't even cure the pain, and you still lose mobility. So we feel like there is definitely a lot of demand there for knee osteoarthritis. But also the good thing is that if we prove this causality thing in knee osteoarthritis, it acts as a proxy for other indications like hip. We could move easily to the hip or other diseases. A lot of these age-related diseases, they are driven by aging hallmarks like chronic inflammation. And chronic inflammation is very important, for example, for Alzheimer's disease. I wanted to pursue Alzheimer's disease, but after speaking to VCs, they said it's too risky right now in the current macro. So knee osteoarthritis made sense at this point because it just involves a simple intra-articular injection in the knee. So it's an outpatient visit.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to our team so far. I just want to give a quick announcement. If you're going to eat, could you please be a bit quiet and make sure that you're being distraction-free? We want to make sure that we are being our best for our competitors. But I'm pleased to announce our next competitor is DesignFlow AI.
This. When I was a mechanical engineer at Toyota, I designed the structure of the vehicle. Actually, single vehicle has up to 30,000 parts, over 1,000 engineers to optimize one single vehicle. Their job is to design. However, their half of their time is not design. It is email, looking internal wikis, or shareholders, or meeting with others to locate the right information lives. I had this trouble for 10 years at Toyota to do my own work. Every single part has a story. Why the material? wider thickness, wider radius. However, these stories are scattered in different format, different location in the company. It is never connected to the geometry on your screen. Our vision is simple. Every engineering decision informed by everything the organization knows. A collective knowledge intelligence for engineers. Alive, searchable, tied to the geometry where the engineering works. We realized $52 million manpower savings per year per customer, which leading to faster product development in the industry. We built engineering design intelligence. Design Flow AI retrieves contextual engineering knowledge from your existing sources. Deliver instant feedback inside CAD, help engineers to execute design changes instantly. Our mode is engineering knowledge connected to CAD. 2 knowledge layers, general engineering principles and your company specific knowledge. A retrieval layer that fuses them. A CAD layer no competitor has. Geometry aware, tied to the cursor, locked to the feature the engineering designing right now. We have built 2 prototypes. First, retrieve the engineering knowledge with evidence. Engineers designing something carry people's lives. This is very important part. They never accept the hallucination. Second prototype sits in the CAD environment. It recognizes the geometry, and the engineers dictate the design change, then model updates instantly. We're gonna converge to ask the question about the geometry you are working on, get the right answer in the context of engineering design, and make a decision only human engineer can make. Our market is growing to $34 billion by year 4. Our persona is 1 million design release engineers in the industry. We enter through automotive, OEMs, tier 1, tier 2 suppliers, where my 10 years network gives us a direct access. We've conducted more than 60 engineers interview, built 2 prototypes, and we are ready to enter the market. We co-develop with customers. Engineers and the directors at Toyota are engaged, gathering feedback on our product from potential customers. We are completing a project description with potential paid pilot. We're gonna run this summer. The economics improve every step. We set our price 50% lower than existing CAD model. We are the complement, not the replacement. We start with pilot projects, 30K annual contract value, then scale into enterprise, where we move the entire organization into the next level of engineering design. We aim for 50 million annual recurring revenue by year 5, landing the first paid pilot this summer, then scale it by year 31. I'm Hiro, MIT SDM and computer science, intersection between engineering and Sloan School of Management. Before MIT, I spent 10 years at Toyota in body design engineering, 14 patents, then joined Apple as a product designer. I know exactly what this industry needs. I needed it myself. My co-founder, Lowell, addresses our key differentiator of our project. He has a thesis around this. This 100K unlocks our first 3 paid pilots and our pre-seed funding. 40K for pilot technical integration and 25K for pilot deployment and investor meetings. Engineers spend half their time not engineering. We are giving it back to them. Thank you.
You mentioned how it's a complement, not a replacement.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about then the adoption curve within the business, how much hand-holding that requires, just kind of the onboarding that you envision for this to really have the efficacy that you're talking about?
Yes, so we are currently talking with several engineers, let's say utilizing my network at Toyota. So they have a pain point. Also, they are using CAD software, which is CATIA, but we validate the pain point. So then we are trying to address the problem directly so that we are onboarding eventually. So then, yeah, starting from there, scaling to enterprise. Yeah. Thank you.
So have you quantified the value proposition? How much are you saving? You say 50% of the time of the engineers is wasted on this. If it's 100%, what does it mean for your customer?
Yes, so currently they are spending 50%. Let's say assuming 20% time is saved because thanks to our product. We are assuming $52 million is saved because we can deliver. They can deliver the product very quickly using our product. So $52 million per project per year is our value proposition.
How much are you charging for that?
Yes, so we have 3 tiers. So everyone starting from pilot project, but eventually as customer feels the value there, so we're gonna expand the number of seats, then go into the enterprise. So this is 3 different tiers we have.
Ask a question about this. You are assuming 20% annual churn, which is pretty high typically. Can you talk about how you got to that assumption?
Yes, so this is based on our market research. Also, we are talking with potential customers, so then validating how potentially you can use this, and then based on these customer interviews, we validate 20% should be the one we are using right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Design Flow. Up next is Mohan.
Dim the lights a little bit because our side is pretty dark.
You can try, but you have to pitch.
All right.
All right, good evening. We are Mohan. We use AI to find copper. So why us? To make this happen, to win this, 3 things are needed. Best geology, best AI, and best network. They almost never sit in the same team. They sit in ours. So for best geology, Olivia Jagotz, professor and director of MIT Earth Resources Lab, and our chief scientist, our co-founder, trained under him. Best AI, Xing Jianbai, CSL PhD, advised by Professor Kai-Ming He, lead our AI architecture. Best network, through MIT Mineral Stewardship Consortium and MIT ERL, we have access to BHP, Vale, Rio Tinto, so doors already open. And why this is so important right now? It looks like everyone's talking about AI, everyone's talking about chips, but nobody talks about what they all sit on. It's copper. Because every cable, every data center, every GPU, it's copper. It's all copper. And by 2030, 4 million tons every year, copper is needed, but we don't know where the next deposit is. How do we find copper today? It's pretty expensive and inefficient by drilling. But $500,000 per hole, 90% miss. It is brutal. So people tried using AI to improve the efficiency of drilling, like Cobalt Metals. But they model the Earth as 2D slices. Earth is not 2-dimensional. So we built it, 3D subsurface model, generative AI. So how do we make it? By diffusion model, the tech behind Sora and Midjourney. Look at this, noise, structure, detail, puppy. Noise, structure, detail, Earth. The same mathematics, but we just run it underground. But here's a catch. To train a model, we need data. Like puppy images, it's free. But subsurface data, $500,000. So we build it by our own. We are compressing thousands of years geology in silicon. From pristine Earth to geological deformation
to thousands of ore body. This is reviewed by professional geologists and patent pending. This is our biggest moat. And where do our clients get? A mining company gave us a few drill hole data, and we gave them 3 things back. Where the copper is, how certain we are, and where to drill next. 3 answers, 1 model, decision ready. How do we know it works? We tested against current soda, cobalt metals. Let's look at the difference. Ground truth, Mohan, and cobalt metals. We are 2 times more accurate, and 60 fewer drills. Translate that into dollars. That's 13 million with the old way, 21 million with cobalt, and 12 million with us. The markets, the copper alone, 3 billion, all AI for mining, 42 billion. How do we make money? Very simple. We license 200K per targets. We also take the royalty, up to 2% royalty per projects. That means 1 find, $500 million in upside. Also, we have data flywheel. Every project makes the next one smarter, so the moat compounds. One of the biggest challenges for most of the deep tech companies we have, like us, is how to get the first customer. But luckily, through MIT ERL, Madden, and Freeport, through MIT MSc, BHP, Valley, Rio Tinto, we are not knocking the door. We are already inside. So here's where we are. Model proven, clients lining up. The lab is done. We need to get to the fields. That is what 100K can unlock for us. First paid pilots, field validation, from MIT labs to a real copper mine. So copper is there, lithium is there, nickel is there. Every critical mineral we need is already there. We just can't see it until now. We are Mohan. We see through the earth. Thanks.
Great job. I was able to understand the diffusion model with the puppy and the paw, and that was great. But then the model has to know that we want a puppy, and every time we start with noise, the puppy is different. We get a puppy, but the puppy is different. So how do you avoid having different 3D images of Earth that are accurate in concept, but once you drill, you don't get the results?
Yes, this part I'm happy to answer. Let's imagine you don't have any drill to the ground. In that case, it is true that there are a lot of uncertainties under the ground. It is possible that the diffusion model generates dogs or cats under the ground. All are possible. But with more drills, there will be more certainty. So actually, the way our model infers whether there's certain mine or uncertainty is by the conditions we already have. So if you have more drills, you'll be more certain where are the mines. This is the answer. And if you don't know whether there's dogs or cat yet, our model will try to put drills there to be more certain. And this aligns with the logic of, I think, traditional mining industry.
So given that, is there a possibility here at some point to actually sell this to governments who this land isn't sold yet and they'd want to know how viable it is to prospectively be mined too, not just the companies that already own the land?
Yes, totally. So because the underground, the subsurface conditions are extremely complicated, maybe the most complex scenarios in all the scenarios you can find. So whether it is a government project or company project, what they essentially want to do is that they want to make a few drill holes, then plunge into our models. Then we can give them the uncertainty, so they can know whether they want to proceed or not. So yes.
Very quickly, you are anticipating basically a revenue share of successful deposits found. Are there precedence for that in the industry, or will you be pioneering a new rev share because of your models?
Yes, the short answer yes, because the method we are comparing with Cold Metals, it's a $4 billion valuation company already. So they have already validated this field exists, the market exists. We are just battling with them. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Good job, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Up next is Wandai.
Uh-oh. Hello, my name is Khan, and I've been suffering from major depression disorder since pandemic. When COVID starts, I was living alone in this tiny apartment and just writing a code all the time. First, my sleep was disturbed, and because of that, I was starting performing worse in the work. I got nervous and even worse sleep. Starting to not eat well, not exercising, not meeting people, even worse sleep. It just goes on and on and on. And I reached until the point that I was not able to sleep for 3 days in a row, and I was seeing some hallucination. And the hardest part from this journey was just opening up. I couldn't just talk to anybody. And I want to tell another story of Adam Rain. He was also depressed. He had nobody to talk to, so he decided to talk with ChatGPT. And unfortunately, ChatGPT couldn't stop his suicide. 800 million people now use ChatGPT weekly, and emotional support is the leading use case of it right now. Mental health epidemic is very real. Suicide is the second leading cause of young Americans, and 20% of high school students consider suicide. This number is growing exponentially. And this problem is just so personal and dear to my heart. I spent my 5 years doing research on predicting suicide. And now we're turning this research into a real product. To that, I'm extremely lucky to have these amazing two co-founders, and all of us went through mental health disorder ourselves. So this is not just a problem, this is a calling for us. Thomas is a second-time co-founder who have B2B sales expertise. And Jongjin is a Harvard Medical School faculty who sees these suicidal patients in daily basis. So that's why we can not only detect, but also intervene on this platform. Okay, so I told a story, and we have a great team and research. And what exactly is the problem? It's not that people talk to AI. The problem is that there is no safety layer. And why do they need to care about those safety layers? Because unsafe conversations are billion-dollar bleeding wounds, and there are already more than 1,000 suits for them. They use 9 figures annually for this console, and Snap, for example, used $20 million for just human moderations. To solve that problem, we built an evidence-based API that detects early mental health risk from conversation trajectory and enable real-time intervention. So we have the mental health risk score, and using that, the platform can nudge the AI conversation away from the danger zone, or they can give the tiered clinical resource library matched to the severity. And on top of that, we give them the audit logs so that they can prove that they detected, acted, and complied for these new compliances. What new compliance, you might ask? There are just so many new compliance coming, which give us a unique window of opportunity. California, for example, they just passed a bill which enforced this AI company to detect, remove, and respond to this instance of suicidal ideation. And there are 12 states who are following that. And from PMR, we learned that this type of pressure actually verified this trust and safety team to make a deal with external vendor. How do we make money? Fixed access fee with per API call charging. We grow as they grow. At replica scale, which we are already having an NDA conversation, it's going to be a seven-figure deal. How do we grow? we first talked to smaller AI platforms such as Replica, Wyza, and Snap. We're all having an active conversation, and also Replica is in NDA stage. And then after we build a reputation, we sell data and clinical consultation to all these foundational models. And lastly, we become the safety certification layer with FDA approval in this AI economy. And I believe that's possible because our expertise with Harvard Medical School psychiatrists. Right now, we're solving the problem of AI companies. But at the same time, we're addressing the biggest problem that we're facing, which is the mental health crisis. Thank you so much for your time.
I'm curious, the first thing that comes to my mind is that you're doing them a favor of you taking on the liability. Have you thought about, like, basically all these lawsuits that are sitting with ChatGPT and Snap, et cetera, would come your way, or?
Yeah, so that's actually a really great question. So depending on that, we're going to charge differently. So one of the suggestions that we get is we actually do some insurance. So if that kind of things happen, we can pay them with the insurance. But if we are going to be responsible for them, we're going to charge much bigger.
Can you just talk actually a little bit more about what it looks like in implementation? So just so I understand it, I'm in ChatGPT, I might be having a conversation, it would trigger a call to your platform, and then just walk me through what happens next from there in terms of the consumer user experience and what data gets collected, that piece of it, please.
Yeah, so for consumer, depending on the platform's decision, it's not necessarily going to, they will actually know what's happening. It's going to be completely white label. So, and another thing is that we're going to inform the clinical steps that they can take to the platform companies, and all platform companies need to decide depending on their internal rule, and they don't want to change that, so we're going to give all the information to the platform companies, and platform company will decide what are the actions that they're going to take depending on their internal policy.
Can I ask a follow-up? Just based on the contribution to the mental health crisis that Facebook and others have had, just give me a little bit of a sense of why you have optimism that this is something that they will willfully take on and avoid the complexity of the broader kind of risks that their platforms represent.
Before, social media companies were actually not liable for the content that other users were posting within the platform itself. Now, with the AI arisal, it's quite different because the chatbot, it's from the company, so they are much more liable for the product.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Last but not least, we have Front Row Fantasy.
We just turned music into a game. We're Front Row Fantasy, and we're bringing fantasy sports, the best of fantasy sports, to music. This is how. You get together with a group of friends, you kick off your season with a label launch, and during this label launch, you get a list of artists that are performing in your area over the next 3 months. You listen to their songs together, and then you bid on your new favorite artists. And then once you do that, this is how you build your virtual music label. Each artist has a popularity score. The higher that score climbs, the better your label does. During the season, you stay engaged by checking in on how your label is performing and the metrics of your friends' labels. And then you also participate in weekly league competitions. After 3 months, the season wraps up, and the label with the highest score wins. The higher the score, the bigger the rewards. The best part, you don't have to wait a whole year before starting a new season again. There's more than one winner when it comes to this game. Right now, there is a massive disconnect in the music industry. Artists spend about $15 billion every year trying to grow their fan bases. But despite that, it's a struggle to get noticed if you're not already mainstream. Every artist, every manager that we've talked to has cited how difficult it is to connect with fans over social media. Our answer to that? Fantasy. Over the last decade, fantasy football participants have doubled to 50 million people, and alongside that, so has NFL revenue to $20 billion. Fantasy players are 50% more likely to buy game tickets versus non-fantasy players, and they're 54% more likely to buy products that their players endorse. We want to do the same thing for music and take the casual listener and turn them into a super fan. This means more concerts, more, more concerts, more merch, and more engagement, the most important part. The market for this is $15.7 billion across fans, artists, and venues. We're focusing on club and theater-sized venues to help emerging artists first, and that market is $1.7 billion. As we grow, we want to scale to stadiums, festivals, and the biggest stages across the world. How we capture that value is that fans will play for free with ads. They can also pay $4.99 a month and also get access to advanced analytics as well as premium gaming features. Artists will be able to pay $150 to $2K per marketing campaign to reach out to the superfans that are on our platform. And then as we scale, enterprise deals with festivals and labels will come in at $150K per deal per year. It's 3 revenue streams in one front row ecosystem. Now, in year 1, we're targeting about 15K monthly active users. This puts us at 100K ARR. As we expand nationally and incorporate artist marketing revenue as well as enterprise deals, we're projected to hit 110 million ARR by year 10, and we'll have 10 million monthly active users on top of a super fan data moat. And this market is the US only, but music is a global phenomenon. We've run over 20 leagues in the Boston area, and 20% of our players are in multiple leagues. Front row players are consistently discovering new music through our game, and they find themselves wanting to go to these artists' concerts. We also bring in people who may not have been interested in fantasy sports, but find that they want to play fantasy and love music. We want to use the 100K to fund in-person activations. We know this is what works. We found things like, we want to do things like trivia nights, brand ambassadors, pop-up events. We believe that this will supercharge our growth so we can expand to other cities like New York, Nashville, and LA. This is the team. I'm Pranati, co-founder and CTO. I spent 6 years at Google building products that reach millions of users. My co-founder Blake is CEO and is former US Navy cyber officer and prior founder. We have a team of advisors deep in the music industry, from executives to artist managers to those who have run their own video game studios. You can scan now, sign up on the web, and start a league with your friends. Thank you, and see you guys in the front row.
Can you tell me or clarify a little bit more who's the client when you say my brand, my friend's brands? I didn't get that.
Sorry, say that again?
Who's the client?
So these are our demographic that we're targeting right now is 20-year-olds to 35-year-olds who are already interested in music and want to go to concerts. And they would play the game.
You use a term, my label, my friend's labels. I didn't understand what that was.
Keep up with your friends' labels.
And when you say labels, what is that?
It's like your team. In fantasy sports, you draft your football team, basketball team, and a label is the team equivalent.
Got it.
I think the go-to-market effort is extremely costly. Have you modeled out how, like, it's direct-to-consumer combined with B2B? Like, it seems to be multi-pronged, expensive, and complicated. Have you put any thought into how you grab the customer or the musician for, like, do you order?
Yeah, we want to start off capturing like the game players first, so the fans. Once we are able to get fans onto this through these in-person activation events, the idea is that at first it is costly. We will have a higher LTV to CAC ratio because these in-paid events are more expensive. But as we grow, we're relying on organic growth as well as word of mouth. The other part of this is that this game has a natural virality built in. When you start a league with your friends, one person starts it and then you have to invite 5 to 10 other people to play it with you. So that gets 10 more people onto the platform each time you do that.
What is the competitive landscape? I don't know enough about, sorry. What is the competitive landscape?
In what sense? In the
the
social
competitor?
gaming market?
Like a similar app or?
Sure. So we're building a platform, right? The competitive landscape on the artist side, like the other marketing teams or tools that they use, are built for labels. They're really inaccessible for the artists that are touring at clubs and theaters. So we offer a marketing package that's immediately enticing to them. And then the gaming market is probably what you would guess. There are a lot of social games out there. So as you alluded to, the hustle part is building the initial player base.
So you mentioned that one of your revenue streams is getting people to pay for the app by offering premium features. What are these premium features that people would pay for?
Yeah.
And these are kind of the fun ones. They range from in-person experiences like backstage access, getting to be part of music video shoots, artist meet and greets, to the deeper analytics in the game, getting to see our predictive models based on how we've tracked artist popularity.
And at the moment, do you have access to those things like backstage and whatnot?
Yeah, we spent the past year going to every music venue in Boston. Some of our best friends work at Paradise and the Sinclair. And it's not only easy for them to give away that access because they're not selling out really any of their shows. The artists are super willing to build their fan base to that stage.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Let's give a huge round of applause for all of our competitors this evening. They did an amazing job. Thank you. And let's also give a huge round of applause to our judges for, thank you. Amazing. So we're gonna invite you for a brief reception with food outside of E51 344 just to get some food while the judges are in deliberation. And we ask that you please come back in the room around 8:55 so that we're able to announce the teams that will be moving on to launch. So thank you so much. And we look forward to spending the rest of the evening with you.
So I want to give a deep felt congratulations to our launch finalists. Thank you again for everyone joining us this evening and making it truly a night to remember. Thank you to our sponsors, to our judges, our organizing team, MIT AV and Video Services, and most importantly to our competitors for their fantastic pitches tonight. We look forward to seeing you all on May 12th for our final competition. You can find tickets at the QR code above, and we'll announce our grand prize winner. Where they'll be receiving $100K. Thank you again and have a great night. So without further ado, we're gonna announce our 7 finalists. In no particular order, we have, drum roll please. First finalist is Mohan. Our second finalist is Neural Physics. Third is Iceberg Systems. Fourth is Pixology. Fifth is Autolab. Sixth is DesignFlow AI. And last but not least, Uplift Microhome. Thank you so much to all of our competitors tonight. You did amazing jobs.
And thank you again to our amazing judges who spent the entire evening with us, dedicating their time and expertise to asking questions and providing feedback, and to our army of online judges who went through all of the applications to select
all of the amazing teams tonight. Thank you so much.
And see you at launch on May 12th.